Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today. Happy Monday and welcome back. I hope your weekend was outstanding and incredible. And you're back bursting full of energy, ready to tackle the week. We got some good stuff to hit today, including day one of the Diddy trial. Hadn't talked about this one in a while, but we're going to dabble into it. We'll see if it's any good. And if you're interested in continuing the coverage of it, today is jury selection, then we'll stick with it. But we'll check into it. It's Maureen Comey. You remember her. She was the same prosecutor, James Comey, former FBI director's daughter, who prosecuted the Ghislaine Maxwell case, the only person who ultimately is in jail as a result of the Epstein saga. All of that we covered. Now we're back with Comey again for another bizarre trial. And if you're somebody who thinks that, well, maybe the FBI went and raided Trump's residence to get their hands back on the Crossfire Hurricane documents, maybe the FBI was responsible for covering up stuff with the Joe Biden documents, and that they've been involved in some honeypots with the Epstein cover-up. Maybe they're also involved, or there's other nefarious actors involved here with the Diddy stuff. We've got many other weird trials that have happened, but we're covering that today. But we are going to start off with some Supreme Court stuff. And here's what we're talking about. Quick preview. We'll come back on this, of course, but this is a big one. An application to the Supreme Court, and they're calling this one an emergency. So D. John Sauer, he is newly the Solicitor General, and he came out today and he said, we're filing this and in an emergency application. So we're going to go through it, see what he's dropping to SCOTUS and where this one might go, but it involves Doge and the future of Doge and their access to the Social Security Administration, which obviously will have some domino effects in the aftermath. So we got all that coming up. We'll learn about the judge who was the lower level judge, this woman here, Ellen Lipton Hollander, issued the ruling from the lower level court that prompted the emergency application to SCOTUS, and we'll get up to speed on that case. But then, like I mentioned, lots of Diddy stuff today. So we'll do a quick update on the latest documents, including the jury questionnaire, because this is what it looked like today. All these are jurors, and so they were circling, okay, we'll take this dude, we'll take this lady, we'll take this unidentified person over here, and just pick all the jurors, and they all had to fill out a questionnaire that looks something like this. And so we'll read through it, because today in the Diddy trial was the first day of voir dire, jury selection. And so as per usual, we've got the very great and incredible Matthew Russell Lee reporting on all this stuff from inside the courtroom, and we'll go through it. This is about as close as we can get in as real as time as we can get into this trial, and it's just kicking off. So we think it could be a little bit of a freaky trial. We'll see what comes down once we get into it. But today we'll check in on day one and see what's happened out there. But my friends, it is a beautiful Monday and very nice to have you here. Glad that you're here and joining us. We had a great members only stream this morning. If you're not yet a member, we'd love to have you become a member. We did a great members only stream this morning talking about a Supreme Court gun case and some other stuff. And we have a lot of fun. We have a great members only community. You can join on YouTube, join on Locals. We'd love to have you come check it out. We'll be live again tomorrow on both platforms at 12 noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And for the Diddy trial, we'll try to keep it as family friendly as we can here, but you know how it goes. All right, so let's get into the news on the day. And thanks for your support here, my friends. Thanks for being here and being amazing. All right, let's talk about some SCOTUS stuff. An emergency application to the Supreme Court of the United States. This one filed by D. John Sauer. You know who he is, the Solicitor General for the Trump administration, newly appointed, confirmed, and in the position, saying, we need you to get involved in this case, Supreme Court. This is an application for a stay of a bad ruling that came down from the District of Maryland. And the judge who issued that bad ruling is this woman here called Judge Ellen Lipton Hollander. She is the district judge out of Maryland, and she was appointed by Barack Obama. And some background on her: she went to Hofstra University School of Law, then Georgetown. She's Jewish, this says, and She was a law clerk before she became a judge, so she actually has some judicial experience. Born in New York City, New York, age 75, so she's been around a while. Now, she issued a terrible ruling. D. John Sauer is going to explain what happened, but this is knocking on the door of the Supreme Court. And this one's a big one because D. John Sauer is calling this an emergency. He says, hey, Supreme Court, this emergency application presents a now familiar theme. We have a district court like this judge, Ellen Lipton Hollander. So Judge Ellen Hollander came out and issued a sweeping injunction, and she didn't have the legal authority to do that at all, in ways that are now inflicting ongoing irreparable harm on urgent federal priorities out of the Trump administration. And she is stymieing the executive branch's functions. Here's what happened. President Trump adopted an 18-month Doge agenda. That is the Elon and crew, and they're going in and trying to clean house to improve the quality and the efficiency of government-wide systems, the IT systems. Now, the Doge service, hereafter called USDS, for the US Doge service, advises the executive branch and federal agencies on how to streamline the government, eliminate waste, ferret out fraud, modernize outdated systems, let malfeasance and inefficiencies go undetected. We're getting rid of the things that let that happen. Now, to that end, multiple agencies, including the Social Security Administration, Treasury, Education, OPM, and many others, have created Doge teams of agency personnel that support these efforts and their agencies. Now, these teams have a business need to access the data at their assigned agency and give their records up for scrutiny. Okay, let us access the systems. The judge said no, saying in response, Judge Hollander at the lower level court in Maryland said she issued a preliminary injunction, and it actually forces the Social Security Administration to block access to Doge. Nope. Unless the Doge team meet a host of judicial conditions. She says, you got to do this, you got to do this, create a spreadsheet. I want a PowerPoint presentation, write up a summary, deliver it to my office, blah, blah, blah. Now, that action followed another district court's decision to block access elsewhere, right? Other judges have gone hog wild on these things. The Fourth Circuit then, Court of Appeals, subsequently stayed the 3-agency order that hit those others, and now we're here. So as a result, the district court, Judge Hollander, is forcing Trump to stop employees charged with modernizing government systems from accessing the data that they need, because she says in the judge's judgment that those employees do not need such access. Now, the injunction involving the Social Security Administration, it goes beyond that. It doesn't just merely halt the critically important efforts with IT to eliminate waste and rebuild infrastructure. No. In fact, the Judge Hollander, she controls the decisions about internal access to information. This is superintendence of a co-equal branch. This is the judge taking over the Trump executive agencies. And the preliminary injunction comes after a TRO. Now, collectively, this lower judge has already stopped the executive branch for carrying out our important objectives for more than a month. And the government cannot eliminate waste and fraud if these lower level judges continue to bar the very agency that has been tasked with the expertise and the mission of stopping the waste and the fraud. Their whole point, their whole reason for existence is to get access to the records, to get rid of the waste and the fraud. Now you're preventing them from doing that for a month. This case, Supreme Court, justifies your intervention because this judge, lower level Judge Hollander, made glaring legal errors all in the course of halting high priority functions within a key agency and more. Now, to start, these labor unions, these people who are suing, and an advocacy organization whose members have submitted their personal information to the government, they lack standing. First, their members furnished their information with the understanding that government employees could access this. Okay, all the union members, in order to get these jobs, they sign these little agreements that the government's going to have access to your data. Do you want to get paid by the government? Okay. Then we need your info. So they cannot plausibly claim then any other injury. They're like, well, we didn't mean that agency. What are we talking about? You signed it over to the government, U.S. government. Well, we didn't mean Elon. Well, that's too bad. He's now in the government. That means members of the Doge team and everyone else access their information is all lawful. They have the same legal and ethical obligations as anyone else in the government. Now, the unions and the so-called service organization, advocacy organization, they don't suffer any actual injuries based on which employees have access to the data. So they're just saying, well, we're okay if Social Security has it, but just not the Doge people, just not Elon's team, because Elon might fire him. Now, further, the lower level judge based her injunction on the APA, something we've talked about a lot. It's kind of this catch-all provision that's if you can't really sue under any other law, they just come in here and they're like, well, we can sue under this. Why? Because we can't sue anywhere else. Okay. Is that because you're not allowed to legally? Yeah, generally, but they try to craft some constitutional claims and bring it under the APA. Anyways, yet the basic requirement under the APA is missing, saying there is no final agency action to review. There's no binding agency rule or policy at all. Now, as this court has recognized, that requirement, you Supreme Court, you've already ruled on this, it prevents courts from reviewing day-to-day operations of federal agencies under the guise of APA review. Can't say that you can now take control over foreign policy or internal domestic policy as it relates to Doge. But here, this judge, Judge Hollander, is installing herself as the supervisor of the Social Security Administration and their routine operational decisions, like whether to grant certain employees access to certain systems. She's in charge of the computer systems, like, okay, give them permission. No, right click. No, right click over here. No, down. Okay, down here at permissions, privileges. Just move. I'll get out of the way. You're not doing that, Judge. But she is left undisturbed. This preliminary injunction will only invite further judicial incursions into agency decision-making. Now, in addition, the order from the judge bases that interference on an unsupportable application of the Privacy Act, saying, well, we have a right to privacy. We're union members. We're advocacy organization people, which authorizes employees to access records when they need it. The law says, oh, we can actually access those things. Now, that standard is clearly met here, writes Trump to the Supreme Court. Employees like the Doge team that are charged with modernizing government systems and routing out fraud, waste, and abuse plainly need access to those systems, not even complicated. But the district court, Hollander, instead viewed agency employees within Doge as the equivalent of intruders who break into hotel rooms by just accessing the data. Judges like this judge, Judge Hollander, appointed by Obama, should not be able to wield the Privacy Act to substitute their own view of government needs. I'm the president now. Fill out your spreadsheet and I'll approve it. And substitute her judgment for the president's. Ridiculous. Now, the pendency of this injunction, Supreme Court, looking at you, John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, you could have done something about this a long time ago if you would wake up for once. It imposes ever-mounting irreparable harm. Hello. As the district court and lower level judges continue to commandeer basic functions of the executive branch. And her injunction also expresses her view, not Trump's view, not the American people's view. Remember, she's not elected. She's appointed for a lifetime position. Saying that Trump cannot correct well-documented problems with its own technological systems. We can't even get in there and fix the software to combat fraud, waste, and abuse. No, because it's too dangerous or something. As noted, another district judge, another one within Maryland, did the same thing, operated it against three other agencies, but the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals there stayed a very similar order over there. And so, Supreme Court, we're now knocking on your door. Myriad other suits are now second guessing how agencies share data. They're close on their heels. We're getting sued all over the place, threatening to further upend the government's modernization effort. And they don't want it modernized, right? The grift is in the gray area. Oh, nobody knows where the systems go. Can't fill out a check form properly. Everyone's getting paid. Everyone's getting grifted for their sub-Sahara parties. Now, while the injury to the government is immediate and consequential, they, the unions and these advocacy organizations, they suffer no irreparable harm based on which employees at an agency may access their data. So it doesn't change. If Elon looks at it, that's not any different than if some other agent, some other person, right, who's also authorized to look at it, looks at it. They already said that in the Fourth Circuit. And 3 other district courts have also recognized about the plaintiffs in materially similar suits, basically analogous claims. So the balance of the equities here strongly weigh in favor of Trump and the government and the people who just voted and elected him. Like, we just voted, man. This court, the Supreme Court, should step in. Talking to you, Johnny boy. Now, on January 20th, 2025, President Trump came into office. It was an epic day, if you remember it. I know you do. And they came in and issued an executive order aimed at modernizing the federal disgusting government. So what happened is Doge came out and they renamed an existing digital service, right? US digital service came out, and now we got Doge, baby. The EO further established within US Doge, the Doge Service Temporary Org. And the EO requires a head of people and directs the Doge people to collaborate with agency heads and more. Now, the EO also addresses the government's well-documented, urgent need to update and improve its systems. The GAO, Government Accountability Office, has long found that improper payments of fraud and other things are a big problem. We got to fix it. And so the people here who want to fix all of this are the government agencies. Social Security Administration, Doge, and others are a party to this lawsuit. We're knocking on your door, Supreme Court. We're saying, hello, can you please do something to allow us to do our jobs, please, for once? And the respondents are 2 national and labor membership unions and 1 grassroots advocacy organization. They've got 7 causes of action, bunch of stuff. Now, as noted, it's not the first lawsuit of its kind, okay, SCOTUS? We've been covering these for months now. You've got a bunch of these. Maryland, they're suing Treasury, Education, OPM. We got other complaints, District of Maryland, Doge affiliates, and more. And so we got the background on this one. Now, we know that the judge came out, issued 2 on her own, this Judge Hollander, 2 sua sponte. That means the court kind of just did it on her own. She woke up. She's like, injustice, Trump. And she just writes some letters to counsel. She wanted to clarify the scope of the TRO. She says, well, there were news reports that were coming out. And so she just, decided she was going to fire off some letters. In the first letter, the court disputed assertions in news reports about beliefs about the scope of the TRO. She said, actually, that's not what it does. In the second letter, issued the same day, the court again faulted the acting commissioner. So the news was reporting, saying, well, the acting commissioner said that you had to do this. And she says, no, contact me if you need me to clarify this. That's not what I said. Okay, so the judge is like scowling on X or something. She sees some post. She's not responding or reposting. She's just writing a new order. That's not what I said. So then they appealed. We're appealing here. And the Percent case was happening. There were other injunctions issued. And we've got the Percent case right now. We have another Percent case. Remember that, where they were suing the Treasury Secretary to stop Doge from accessing that material. We covered that case at length when it broke. And so they're giving us a lot of procedural history. And so let's fast forward through some of that until we get to where we are here. So back in Maryland, right, she's saying, okay, now under all of this, we've got lots of databases, lots of competing cases, and a lot of this is to show the Supreme Court, guys, we've got a problem down here, okay? They're suing over here, here's what they're doing. They're over here is wholly different. This is a problem. Can you figure it out? You're the Supreme Court. You need to come in and settle all the kids down, all right? Saying, look, under these rules, we're now here. Now, the lower level court granted broad relief to reconfigure. This lower level Judge Hollander decided she's going to reconfigure the internal operations of a crucial government agency by saying who can do what and when. Now, she did so at the behest of those organizations whose members gave the Social Security Administration information and permission to access that information. They lack standing, and we're going to win. Here's why. They don't have any standing in the first place. They've got to actually have a basis for being in this court. They must establish an injury that is recognized legally. Now, as 6 judges have said below, they have not and cannot demonstrate that their so-called members have suffered any injury. It's got to actually be an imminent injury. And those requirements are fatal here because they assert an intangible form of injury. Namely, they say, well, the disclosure of their personal information to Doge is an invasion of their privacy. They say that's the damage. Well, what is the damage? My privacy. It's invaded. I know, but what's the damage of that? You gave the government permission to look at that data, right? Yeah. So Doge is a part of the government, right? Yeah. But they can't access it. Okay, why not? Because they're going to invade my privacy. I know, but that's part of the government. What's the invasion of? Like, what's the privacy interest that you've articulated? I don't know. That injury is not even concrete. Respondents do not contend that their information has been shared with parties outside the government, right? That's okay. That's the point. Well, it's an invasion of your privacy, but you gave permission to the government. Well, not Doge, though. Okay, but Doge is part of the government. Okay, well, I don't want them to. All right, well, you shouldn't have given your information to the government then. Are you concerned that it went outside the government? No. Okay, so it's still in the government, right? Okay. And others likely to misuse the information, but they say no, to the contrary. In fact, the Doge team members, like everyone else in the government, are bound by the same legal and ethical restrictions as other prior individuals, including the Privacy Act's authorization of criminal penalties for willfully engaging in prohibited disclosures. And if you're going to give outside agencies or outside litigants, rather, the authority to sue, and then to say, well, this subset of employees, for example, like, I don't want Alejandro Mayorkas looking at anything ever at all because he's a moron, right? That was Biden's former Homeland guy. Or like Jay Bratt, for example, okay, moron from the Department of Justice. What if we just sued and said, well, Jay Bratt's a moron, so we can't have him touching anything related to the law because he can't, think intelligently. Could we do that and sue and then just decide which employees can do certain things? What kind of ridiculous precedent would that be setting? Obviously, the court is going to think about that. Now, respondents asserted maybe we should be allowed to do that. But here, my point is, that would open up a Pandora's box. Everybody would be suing everybody. We got a changing of the entire government. And with that comes new people who are in places of employment, including Doge. Now, they assert that their injury resembles an injury in another case. But in that other case, the court said the mere fact that the defendant in that case allegedly maintained inaccurate information about the company's files, that's not standing. That alone is not enough. Same thing here. The mere fact that the government allegedly, hasn't even been proven yet, committed a statutory violation in allowing certain government employees to access information is not a concrete harm. Like, what did they do with that information that was harmful to you? Nor does the respondents allege distress, and we saw a bunch of these, and many of them were even pleading, putting in their lawsuits, emotional damage, if you remember, literally put that in their writings. I think it was one of Norm Eisen's lawsuits because his whole life is emotionally damaged, which is why the way he is. At the thought of government employees accessing their data. I can't even believe it. Like, they could have opened up a spreadsheet file and my name was inside. What would they do with your name? Anything? No. The fact that Elon looked at it makes you freaked out, causes you distress and emotional damage. Respondents provided their information to the Social Security information. They say it's undisputed that that information can lawfully be accessed by the agency, and it can be shared outside the agency for any numerous purpose that's codified under the law. And the Doge team members are subject to the same confidentiality rules as elsewhere. But for whatever reason, the lower level judge, Judge Hollander, still held that they did establish an injury in fact, and they have standing. From what's the harm? No one knows. They just made it up, saying it's like a common law tort of intrusion upon seclusion, which is rich. But that's wrong in several respects. Now, the other case, called the TransUnion case, requires a close relationship between the tort and the violation if you're going to invoke that doctrine. Although an exact duplicate is not required, their contentions must be closely analogous to the common law tort. And so when we talk about the common law, think of it as like not U.S. statutes, okay, old English law that has kind of been around and passed down through the ages. What ended up happening in the United States is we've just codified a bunch of things. We've just turned the law, the common law, into statutes and say, oh, well, this is going to be under, 18 U.S. code, whatever, and that's going to be the law now, and we can do away with the common law. But we still might have some claims that aren't exactly articulated well in our new statutes, that are still reminiscent of older claims in common law that are still valid in a way because they're the basis of the statutes. They're just not covered by. So they're, okay, we don't have a statute that says this is wrong, but we're going to go back to this. It's a common law tort. The judge is pulling this out of her booty and saying, well, it's kind of like a similar statute that is violated. But that argument was forfeited, and it's also unavailing. Many American courts never recognize this type of thing as actionable publications for this, like some sort of tort of defamation, those cases generally require that the document was actually read, but that evidence was lacking in TransUnion. So prior case interpretation, but they say here, their theory of injury bears no resemblance to that at all, to this old concept of invasion upon seclusion. So they haven't suffered. There's no actual suffering. When you're invaded, when you're like secluded and somebody just starts invading you with noise or jackhammers, or they come there and cause a nuisance on your property, they're invading your right to be secluded. That doesn't happen here at all. What's the harm? The restatement of torts, which is a kind of an incorporation, a codification of all of the common law torts, defines intrusion upon seclusion as an intentional interference with one's solitude or seclusion or his interest in his private affairs, and it's got to be highly offensive to a reasonable man, and gives us some examples. But this is contrary to those things. This in no way resembles that situation at all. It's not highly offensive at all under the torts. This is not here surreptitiously invading their hotel room, okay? So you have a right to privacy, a right against invasion, right? Intrusion or seclusion upon your seclusion in a hotel room. Somebody comes bursting in there while you step out for a minute. That's an invasion of your right to privacy. That's not what this is. You gave your information to the government. Now you're just mad that Elon's in charge. Now, instead, the Social Security undisputably obtained their information legally and legally retains that information within the agency. Now, simply put, this so-called tort that they're trying to bring out here, it's supposed to guard against the unease of having one's private concerns specifically targeted by another investigation. But that's not what's happening here. They're not saying that their distress is based on anything tangible. It's just knowledge that some people have access to the database. And when they provided their information to the government, they did so with an understanding that information would be routinely used both inside the agency and outside the government to perform activities that the government needs to perform. Their system of records notice permits even non-governmental personnel to access the data. So they can hardly complain about anything. Did you check the box? Did you sign the terms of service? Well, your whole life's over now. So we have ownership of all of it, including your kidneys. Respondents can hardly complain of a concrete injury here. Indeed, they don't dispute that their personal information can lawfully be accessed by employees of the agencies. They also don't dispute that it is regularly accessed. In fact, they would have no reason to even know if someone like Doge even looked at it. So this is not highly objectionable, okay? So whether it's Doge or somebody else, they're just mad at Doge because they don't want to get fired or something. Now, far from constituting a highly objectionable invasion, the Doge members who can access this information do the same thing to everybody. So it's not an injury, definitely not an injury for standing. Now, they also tried to bring a claim under the APA, but can't do that. Their complaint seeks the exact kind of review that is prohibited. They're trying to manage agency operations, not allowed to do that and bring a lawsuit under the APA to do that. The supposed agency action, so-called, they identify is a loosely defined series of personnel decisions related to granting individual employees access to agency systems. Like, so what are you suing about? Someone's going to go look at a spreadsheet or access a computer system? Okay. They say that Social Security granted access to Doge too quickly, and without adequately vetting those employees, providing them with sufficient training or more. Lower courts have said, come on, you can't get in here and say this is how you should do things. That makes the judiciary in charge of the executive, which is not lawful. Now, indeed, respondents and the district court's understanding of what qualifies as, quote, agency actions, this judge can figure it out, would have sweeping and untenable consequences if this judge's standard is allowed to prevail. Agencies make thousands, this was my point earlier, of personnel decisions every day of the type they challenge here. They create an email account for an employee. They staff an employee on a particular matter. They ensure that an employee has the relevant training and credentials to access or participate in programs. If courts can review these decisions and say, oh, no, that person's not properly trained. No, that person's not qualified. Every aspect could trigger the APA review. This is a result that no courts have countenanced until now, until Judge Hollander came in. She's like, well, I'm in charge. I hate what you're doing. Far from identifying relevant precedents for such review, the district court Hollander simply stated that the approval decisions are akin to binding agency opinion. And so that because you made a decision to say you can go access that system is enough to give her jurisdiction over the claim. Now, even if these decisions were agency action, they're also not final for the APA, and they don't create a basis for a lawsuit. You can look at other cases and come to the same conclusion. But even if this case were justiciable, meaning they could sue because there was an actual claim, the claim would fail on the merits for many reasons. The district court only addressed two of them. It found that they're likely to succeed because the access was not in accordance with the law. But that was wrong, they write. And while the Privacy Act generally prohibits disclosure, it contains exceptions, and those exceptions explicitly authorize what we've done, saying the requirement is met here because the Doge team members are employees of the agencies and they fall within the Privacy Act. The employees at issue have a need to access the records and they meet the statute under US code. And the standard is met. The Doge team at Social Security consists of agency employees who have been tasked by Social Security with modernizing federal technology. And the Doge executive order has directed the undertaking of software modernization to promote a better government. Consistent with that effort, they also instruct them to do these other things: ensure prompt access, and a subsequent order expanded on it and more. And so that's what they're doing. They're modernizing the federal government, looking and identifying waste, fraud, and abuse. We couldn't do it unless we had access. That access is required. So it's plain that the Doge team members are doing their jobs. They're trying to assess the propriety of any payments and more. And so the lower level judge made a mistake. She erred in holding that they are likely to succeed, these unions, on their claims, saying, well, we don't need, Doge doesn't even need access. It's ridiculous. Clearly they do. They can't follow the law unless they have access. So Hollander then, her determination stemmed from its view that the Privacy Act protects the access. But it's hardly surprising, much less legally relevant, that employees would need access to more records to modernize the systems. Here, a limited number of team members have been granted access for a very specific purpose. The Privacy Act does not micromanage that lawful access via the courts. Many non-Doge people have also had access for a long time, but now she disapproves of Doge. Like, that's what this boils down to. It's not even about access so much. She's just trying to put a speed bump in to stop Doge. Much of the lower level judge's analysis focused on whether the unions demonstrated that beyond needing access, they also needed access to the personal information. They said, well, you just get their general information, but not the further information. But it's obvious that the employees who are, for example, tasked with investigating whether they made improper expenditures would need to know that personal information. That's the problem, right? To see who got those duplicate payments. They don't want anybody to see those. So the district court's analysis also fails under the Privacy Act, and the judge is terrible. Her reasoning fails on its own terms. The administrative record and declarations from Trump explain that although the agency investigated options for masking these things, we can't do it. The district court found this explanation insufficient because we need the personally identifiable information to make the necessary analysis for fraud. Okay, we got to know, if we're investigating fraud, who took the money? Where's the money going? But nothing in the Privacy Act allows the judge to substitute her own judgment. We've made that decision. We need the info. She says, no, you don't. Nothing says the judge can say, yeah, I can substitute my judgment for yours. So she made a mistake in holding that they're going to win. They're not. She said that we have not provided the court with a reasonable explanation for why Doge needs full access to this stuff. But we've already explained it. We did tell you, Judge. And another judge, Judge Richardson, in the Besant case, says it doesn't stretch the imagination to think that modernizing software would require administrator level access to those systems. Obviously, judge is like, I've updated my software on my Windows PC. It says, are you an administrator? Yes, I am. Do it. You need it. Once again, the district court's contrary determination simply substitutes its own view for Trump's. Totally unlawful. Now, the Supreme Court application continues and starts to wrap up, tells us, in deciding whether to grant this relief, You should weigh the balances here. What this judge is doing is imposing a significant obstacle to a major policy initiative. Judge Hollander is creating a far-fetched reading of the law and stopping a major federal agency, in this case, the Social Security Administration, perhaps one of the biggest agencies in the country, at least by budget. It does so even though respondents, these unions, suffer no injury from day-to-day determinations on this, and this court has repeatedly intervened in other cases, in listing many of those there. Now, this court also is causing irreparable harm to the executive branch. More than 3 months ago, Trump signed the EO. We're modernizing the government. We're doing it. Get on board. But for much of that time, the district court, Judge Hollander, has blocked the Social Security from even following out its mandate. The first form of a temporary order came down in, now in an injunction. And her order impinges upon President Trump's broad authority in our mandate to direct the federal workforce, to oversee the government system, and to get out waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, the balance of the equities here, Supreme Court, strongly favors Trump and the government. They say they're going to face imminent harm. Oh no, if Doge accesses our system, we're going to be in trouble. As discussed, those allegations do not establish an injury, whatever they're complaining about. We still don't really know what it is. Intrusion upon seclusion. All right. Now, regardless, their abstract objection to accessing data that's already in the government's possession, that the government has an interest in managing its affairs, in its internal affairs, their privacy rights can't outweigh that. In finding that they would suffer irreparable harm, the unions, the lower level court really didn't show much there. She didn't even say that they were going to disseminate or misuse the data. She just said, well, the mere fact that you could access this is enough. That's a harm. But that's plainly incorrect. As this court has already discussed in the Court of Appeals in the Besant case and 3 other district courts, that is not irreparable harm. This fear that you might access the data maybe and something could happen, that's not a concrete injury. That's not standing. As those courts have explained, dissemination of information may constitute an irreparable injury where it's highly sensitive when it's made public, but this is not being made public. In fact, if it is, you get charged with a crime. But dissemination of information does not constitute irreparable harm where it's not public and you promise to keep it confidential. That's exactly what the Social Security Administration is doing. And so here, in the Supreme Court of the United States, D. John Sauer makes his final plea for action from John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, saying, the Solicitor General here, John, speaking to you, John, respectfully requests that this Supreme Court grant an administrative stay on Judge Hollander and consider what we've submitted to you here today. The court's flawed injunction forecloses the executive branch from carrying out the priorities of modernizing our software. All at the behest of plaintiffs, these unions who gave their information to the agencies, here you go, with knowledge that other government employees knowing would access their data. Now, the district court has blocked these time-sensitive efforts for over a month without any legal basis for doing so. And in these circumstances, Supreme Court, an administrative stay is warranted while this court assesses the government's entitlement to a stay. And so what you should do is stay Judge Hollander's preliminary injunction and allow us to do our job. And if this were any other administration, of course, right? You sued Joe Biden over COVID. The judges laughed you out of there. They're violating our rights, or they're making changes. They're changing the military. They're changing requirements or whatever. They're firing somebody, whatever. You sue, they would just laugh you right out of there. But now, since it's Trump, the lower level judges are becoming activist little maniacs. And now we're going to the Supreme Court. So hopefully we get some updates from the Supreme Court very soon, but a good filing from D. John Sauer. Now, Trump was also out talking about these judges. We're dealing with some maniac judges who are just issuing injunctions left and right, just saying, we're in charge, we're running stuff around here. President Trump was asked about this on board Air Force One over the weekend, and he says, we're getting our own judges. As we know, judges retire from time to time. We got to get better judges in there so we don't have to deal with these judges who decide they are the president now.
What's your timeline on the Which nominations?
The future judicial nominations for the federal judge positions.
Well, we're putting them in rapidly. We're trying to get very good ones. I mean, we need judges that are not going to be demanding trials for every single illegal immigrant. We have millions of people that have come in here illegally, and we can't have a trial for every single person. That would be millions of trials. The people elected me in a landslide with we won every swing state, we won everything there is to win by big numbers. Not only swing state, we won the popular vote by millions of votes. They elected me. This was the number one issue. And now we have judges radicalized and they're crazy because they want us to have, if you believe this, they want us to have a trial for every person that came in illegally into our country. So they come into our country illegally, and then we're supposed to take weeks, I guess, and months to have a trial on every criminal, and we have murderers all over the country. I don't think the Supreme Court will stand for that. I can't believe it. Because you know what? If they do, we're not going to have a country.
That's right.
How will you make sure that the judges that you appoint are different than that?
What you can do is do the best you can. You know, you try and appoint the best people to be judges or anything else that you appoint. But so far, you've been very disappointed with the decisions that come out, and mostly from the people appointed by others than me. But it's just so hard to believe that you have a murderer. Many, we have 11,888 or whatever the number is. We have thousands of murderers in this country. We're getting them out. And they say, we don't want them out. We want them to stay in our country until they have a trial. Trials take years. They take years. It's so crazy. We won't have a country left. We can't have that happen. Who are you with?
We're going to get new judges, and they're going to be much better than this current crop of Biden and Obama appointed judges and some Trump appointed judges in there who think they're the president, issuing nationwide injunctions, seizing control of executive power. But the Supreme Court now has another big case on their doorstep. We'll see what comes out from them, and we'll be continuing to cover it. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now let's change gears a little bit, my friends, and talk about a trial. It's trial time, baby. And we're getting into it. The Diddy trial, day one. We're starting off with jury selection. And today in this recap, we've got a bunch of stuff queued up. We'll take a look at the orders that have come down right before the jury voir dire, the jury questioning started. And we'll take a look at the actual orders that came down from the judge, ordering Diddy into court, giving him his non-prison clothing and more, before we look at the actual questionnaire that the jurors were filling out before the attorneys started digging into them to ask them further questions. We'll see what they were looking at. And then, of course, we'll turn over to Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee. He, of course, is living there in the Southern District of New York for the duration of this trial and reporting it on X in about as real time as we can get, in as close to a transcript format as we can get. We're very grateful for his reporting. So make sure you're following him over at the top of our timeline at Inner City Press on X. But full day of what happened in there, including the selection of the jurors. Let's take a look, though, before we jump into the day's activities, on the final orders that came down. So voir dire starting. The judge on this case is Judge Arun Subramanian, and he's a new judge. He was actually just appointed by Joe Biden, this guy right here, in 2023, born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, age 45, 46, born 1979, went to Columbia and elsewhere, but pretty new. Probably has not done many jury trials and definitely not a big RICO trial like this one. So he issued an order saying, all right, we're getting started, baby. Monday, May 5th, today, in the courtroom at 8:30 with jury selection. And they were bringing Diddy over in his in his non-prison outfit, saying, it's ordered that defendant Combs will be permitted to receive non-prison clothing standard to wear for his trial scheduled to begin today. He is permitted to have up to 5 button-down shirts, 5 pairs of pants, up to 5 sweaters, 5 pairs of socks, and 2 pairs of shoes without laces to wear to court because laces can be dangerous. So take those laces out. So Diddy, be dressed up. He makes his way over to court. We're going to have a bunch of jurors who are being questioned today. Day one, jury selection. So this is a form that both sides got. So the defense would have gotten this. The prosecution would have gotten a copy of this. Both sides will go through and they'll say, well, we read all these questionnaires. So we'll look at what the jurors were filling out and we'll decide, well, we like 279. We think he's good. 456 is a nut. We'll go 619 looks good. We'll scratch 300. He talked about whatever. And then, you kind of go through the list. So then you come into court, you present those, you'll call the people that both sides agree upon, and we'll start to whittle down the giant jury pool into something that is much more manageable. Now, before we get into jury selection, here is the jury questionnaire that they got in the Diddy trial. You can see these are the preliminary instructions, and we'll flash through these 17 pages telling us, all right, this is for you, America. Pretend you're on the jury in the Diddy trial. About to get freaky, baby. Saying, please read the following instructions, America, before completing any portion of this questionnaire. Please print your juror number in the space at the top. Okay, getting a little nervous here. Juror ID is going to be 7. Okay, lucky number 7. Please answer each question and every question fully. Some questions have more than one part. And you are sworn to give true and complete answers to all questions in this questionnaire. It's going to help us. It's not intended to inquire into your personal matters. Okay. Although some questions might be personal, please understand we're trying to learn about your background. Now, please answer all questions to the best of your ability. And remember, you are sworn to give true and complete answers to all questions. And if you're just joining us here, we covered the Ghislaine Maxwell case at length on this. And one of those Ghislaine Maxwell jurors, I'm pretty sure it was that case, came out after the fact and admitted that he didn't fill this out all that well. Turns out he's like, well, I was abused. And then was telling other jurors about that, but never filled it out in the form so nobody could ask him about it. Strange stuff. Anyways, okay, do not question or discuss your questions. Do not do your own research on the case. And here's a summary of the case. Okay, fast forward through the boilerplate stuff. Now, all right, America. This is a criminal case brought by the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, a wild district. The defendant is Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. P.D., a.k.a. Love. Mr. Combs has been charged in an indictment alleging a number of crimes, including racketeering, RICO conspiracy, trafficking, transportation to engage in the P, kidnapping, arson, obstruction of justice, bribery, drug distribution, and forced labor, which I think was that basically the entire summary of his 1999 album in the Godzilla movie. I think, right? An indictment is not evidence of anything, though. And they say Mr. Combs Diddy has pled not guilty to all charges, and he is presumed innocent. And before he can be found guilty, the jury must find that the government has proven each element of that crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, potential jurors will be called back for further questioning and jury selection, so this entire week should be that. The trial is going to begin next week, Monday, May 12th, with opening arguments and the trial. Now, it's expected to last about 8 weeks. Woo! Trial generally is held 5 days per week, Monday through Friday. So we got maybe 2 months of this going on. We'll see how interesting it is and how much you want to hear about it. During the first week of the trial, Monday through Friday, trial will be held from 9:30 to 5 p.m. After the first week, 9:30. Trial will not be held on Friday, May 24th, the Friday before Memorial Day, or Juneteenth, or July 4th. Okay. Now, if you're selected as a juror, you better be here. There are no plans to sequester the jury, which means you're going to go home every day after trial. Now, here's your ability to serve. Let me know about all of this, says the court. So, do you have any serious hardship or extreme inconvenience? Yes, rap music is violative to my ears, and I hate, I live for East Side or whatever. Okay, so judge, okay, you're gone. Now, in the event you're excused from service, you're not going to be excused in general. You're going to have to come back for another trial. So just let you know. Do you have any personal commitments? No. Okay. So, okay. Do you have any difficulty speaking or understanding English? No, we're good. Do you have any medical or other conditions that might make it difficult, including reading, concentrating? No. Are you taking any medication? Hunter Biden's like, no. Do you have any prepaid or non-refundable travel plans from May 12th to July 18th? Maybe you got 4th of July plans. In fact, 4th of July is Mama G's birthday. So yeah, Mama G can't go. Says, do you have any religious, philosophical, or other beliefs that would make you unable to render a verdict in this case? Other than, let's say no, we can judge. The charges in this case involve serious things: kidnapping, arson, bribery of a witness, obstruction of justice, drug distribution, forced labor, trafficking of people, transportation for engagement in certain bad things. Is there anything about the nature of these allegations that would make it difficult for you to be fair or impartial? If yes, please explain, right? If you're the victim of this, yes, I was. I got attacked by somebody in a nightclub one time. I can't stand that song. Come With Me from P. Diddy, whatever. I flashbacks to him standing on that building, waving his jacket around. There may be evidence of graphic videos, including videos of physical violence. No, in connection with the case, there may be anything. Is there anything about the nature of this evidence that would make it difficult for you to be fair and impartial? Yeah, probably. There may be evidence of sexually explicit videos, photographs, and language. Would that evidence interfere with your ability? Yeah. Would you be able to listen to and discuss matters of a certain nature with fellow jurors, including massive quantities of baby oil? Okay. Next question. Do you understand how much baby oil we're talking about? Next question. It's like gallons of baby oil. Do you understand? Okay. No, actually, I don't. It's just a lot. Have you or a member of your family been the victim of any harassment or domestic violence? If yes, would this impact your ability? Yes or no, right? You can fill that out. Have you, anyone else, been charged? Okay, have you been actually on the other end of this? Yes or no? Prefer to answer in person, right? Something like that. That's not for me. That's just in general. If yes, would that experience your ability to be fair? Have you or a family member ever been the victim of a crime of violence, reported or not? Was there an arrest? What was the outcome? What about something other than a traffic ticket? Have you ever been involved in domestic violence? Has someone who's a member of your family ever been employed as law enforcement? If yes, would that be fair since your husband's a cop? Do you have any personal, religious, or philosophical beliefs that would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case? Yes or no? Answer. Now, under the law, the facts are for the jury to determine, and the law is for the judge to determine. Now, you are required to accept the law as the judge explains it to you. Even if you don't like the law, you must determine the facts according to those laws. Do you accept this principle? And do you promise you're not going to nullify the jury? Yes. Now, the law provides that they're presumed innocent. The government is required to prove the defendant is guilty beyond the reasonable doubt. Now, do you accept these principles, or will you be able to apply them if you serve on this jury? Hopefully for everybody, that's a hard yes. Now, the law says no has an absolute right not to testify. If the defendant does not testify, you're not going to hold them against him, right? Yes. A juror is required to make decisions based on their own opinion of the evidence in court, presented in court, not based on suspicion, bias, prejudice, or sympathy. Do you concur? Yes. Under the law, the question of punishment is for the court to decide alone. So you don't get to talk about the sentence, okay, whether, he could go to prison for 100 years. Objection. The case is likely to receive ongoing media attention. Can you, juror of America, from now until your jury service is complete, avoid all media coverage about this case? All of it. Do not go on the internet. Do not go on social media. You are forbidden from consuming any news media for 8 weeks, or social media about this case, or discussing this case outside the courtroom. Don't talk about it with family, friends, domestic partner, colleagues, coworkers. It applies until now. Do you have any concerns about this? No. You ever served as a juror before? Without saying what the verdict, did you reach your verdict? Have you ever served as a member of a grand jury? Anything about your past that would prevent you from acting as a fair juror? And do you have relationships with any of these people? So let's look at who's in this case. The defendant in this case is Sean Combs or his family members. Do you know them? Yes or no? No. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton. Know him? No. Do you know these people? Maureen Comey? Yeah, she was the hack prosecutor in the Ghislaine Maxwell case who sent Ghislaine Maxwell to prison, but not anyone else. Same thing with Mitzi Steiner. Yeah, we covered her before. I feel like these two were also in the prior cases, but I think these two or no. Okay, so we know them just through the law, but obviously no, don't know any of them. Now, how about any of these attorneys on the defense team? Mark Agnafilo, the big one, Tony Garagos, Anna Estevano, Shapiro, and more. Do you know any of these people? No. Do you know the judge? No. If you answered yes to any of these questions, let us know. And here is more about the case. Do you know anything about Puff Diddy, P. Diddy, aka Love, aka PD, Mr. Combs? What have you heard? What have you seen on social media? Please tell us here in the box below. Have you personally formed any opinions about Diddy? Please let us know in the box below. Based on anything you've read, is there anything that's going to make it difficult for you to be fair and impartial? And have you seen or even liked any social media? Because once the jurors hit that box, baby, they're going to be scrutinizing them. Did you like any social media posts about Diddy? Now, based on anything you've read at all, will you be able to follow the instructions that are put in front of you? And is there anything that is not on this questionnaire that you think is important to bring up? Let me know. I, juror number 7, do hereby declare the following is true, signed by juror number 7 on this 5th day of May 2025. So that's what got handed to several hundred jurors in a box and in a form that looked like this. They then selected the jury members, the jury numbers. They obviously would have picked us. Juror number 7 looks like was already booted out. Never mind. All right, so there we go. Didn't like her. So they bring him in, and the questioning is about to get started. But first, a little bit more background. This was one interesting frame. I was looking up the prosecutors. I think I searched for prosecutors, Diddy trial. One of the first articles I found was from the Jasmine brand. It says, the Diddy trafficking trial is led by an all-white female prosecution team. I know. The same all-white team, I think, that was prosecuting Ghislaine Maxwell. And so this is how they're framing it on one website. It says the federal prosecution team is made up entirely of white women. Oh, no. Led by Maureen Comey, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, the same guy who whitewashed the Hillary Clinton email saga and more. She's a Harvard Law grad, helped convict Ghislaine Maxwell, now leading up the trial in the Southern District of New York. We've got the other attorneys who were there, and it's going to be interesting to see how this is framed up. I mean, the only thing worse than all-white female team would be like an all-white male team. Oh, my gosh. Could you imagine? I know. So that happened. Now, outside the courtroom, we got some photos. Inside the courtroom, they say Diddy was cool, calm, collected, strutted into the courtroom on trial day 1. His composure slipped, and he made a telling admission. And so we're going to get right into it. Here's some photos here of what he was dressed like and what he was wearing. Some sunglasses there. Hair looks a little bit grayed out. His attorney's coming in. Diddy's attorney, Brian Steele, arrived at the courthouse, Southern District of New York. See them walking in there. Inside the courtroom, we got some hugs being shared. Here's some video footage from inside and some scene from people outside. Here's one dude, Diddy supporter, says, "Free Puff!" And trial is about to get underway. And so, reporting, as usual, Inner City Press, day 1 of the trial, Diddy in Southern District of New York. Our friend Matthew Russell Lee reporting on this over at Inner City Press on X. We reposted this at the top of our timeline so you can follow along. Here's what went down in the Southern District of New York. Everybody's seated at the court tables, just kind of waiting. Game last night. I got WNBA. It's amazing. All rise. Oh, put your phone down. Judge walks out, takes the seat, and says, "Let's begin." Clerk calls the case. This is the case of United States of America versus Sean Diddy Combs, case number CR 1257825, whatever. Judge says, all right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now, to begin, I have composed a list of prospective jurors who, based on their questionnaire answers that we just read, I don't propose we do individual Q&As with. I read them. They look good. The list of people in the place is so long here. We've got like 700 people. I thought it was an appendix to the Lord of the Rings. Chuckles and laughter in the courtroom. Judge. Oh, that's a good one. You're funny. Prosecutor on Maureen Comey's team. All right, well, Your Honor, that sounds good. Well, why don't we just have the next juror in line review the binder with the court staff, and then we can save that time. Judge says, okay. And we have given 2 copies of that binder to your staff, Your Honor. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Comey. And I assume we'll soon get the thumbs up. Jurors are ready, that they're ready for us. You'll let us know. Court team says, yes, Your Honor, we're working on that. All right. Well, I think it is sufficient for me to say here on the record that there will be times that a juror has privacy concerns about assault or trauma during these questions, and it would be appropriate to address that at a sidebar with the transcript sealed. I think that's the plan for today. Ms. Comey, I understand that is how it was done in the Maxwell case, the Ghislaine Maxwell case, which Maureen Comey led. And of course, this is curious because essentially Maureen Comey has a little bit more experience than this judge does, right? She's already run another major crime trial like this. Yes, Your Honor. That's how we did it in that other case with that other judge who went up to the Circuit Court of Appeals. Maureen Comey says, yep, it was. The judge says, all right, well, there is a logistical issue that we have to work out. If we seal the transcript that come up here, including no one, including Mr. Combs can see it. So if these jurors come up and they talk about, I was traumatized. So what if we leave it in the transcript? Since the jurors are not identified by name, we'll just use their numbers in there. And then that way Combs can see the record. The defense says, Your Honor, let us think about that. We'll go talk with the prosecutor. So they walk over there, sit down, Maureen Comey, the defense. Your Honor, we spoke with the prosecution at the sidebar when they come up, Your Honor. What was the court going to tell the jurors about the level of confidentiality? So if they raise an objection or something, what are you going to talk to them about? I only ask because if the potential juror believes this would be entirely confidential, then that relates to candor. And so if we're going to tell them it's confidential, it has to be confidential. So what are we going to tell them? Well, judge says, well, I'm not going to lie to the jurors, obviously. So I'll tell them what is happening. Are we ready? Both sides? Yes. Okay, bring them in. Prospective jurors are brought into the courtroom. All rise. We all stand up for the jurors to show our respect. Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for doing your civic duty. We love you. Thank you. Judge says, all right, ladies and gentlemen, prospective jurors, good morning. Thank you for your time in the courtroom today. I know parking was a little bit rough this morning, but starting to warm up here. We're glad you're here. Now, let me tell you about this case. This is a criminal case. It's called United States versus Sean Combs. And I expect this trial to run for approximately 8 weeks. So 2 months of time we're going to be spending here together. Now, justice depends on all of you. You've all filled out the long questionnaire, and in a few minutes, I'll ask some more questions of you just to ask some clarifying points on what you've already submitted here today. And if during the process, you would prefer to answer a question not in open court in front of everybody because it is a little sensitive, no problem. We'll do it out of earshot. You just let me know. We'll bring you up here to the bench and we'll have a conversation about it. Now, just so you know, the transcript will be visible only to the parties themselves, and your answers in these will not have your names on them. So you will not be identified. So the public won't see these transcripts. So when you come up here, only I will see it and the parties, but nobody will know who you are. Now, your answers, whatever you tell me, will allow for peremptory challenges. So based on what you tell me and the court, they can strike you as a juror. They can delete you from the prospective juror list. Now, let me give you a brief summary of this case before we begin. Any questions? Great. There is one defendant on trial in this courtroom, ladies and gentlemen. His name is Sean Combs. He's also known as Puff Daddy, Diddy, other names, and Love. All these names are pretty bad for the charges. Now, he has pleaded not guilty, and he is presumed to be innocent. There are 5 counts here. We've got a racketeering conspiracy, which is the overarching conspiracy. And then there's kidnapping, trafficking to engage in with 2 victims, a male and commercial workers. Now, Diddy has denied all of it, ladies and gentlemen. And our schedule is to be ready for May 12th for the trial. The first week, 9:30 to 5. Then we're going 9 to 3. Any questions? No? Okay. We're going to swear you in, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone here not swear an oath? All right. So please stand, raise your right hand. Ladies and gentlemen, do you affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will do all the things that we say? Thank you. You may be seated. Okay. Now, everyone has the list of questions in front of them, right? Now, there are 14 sequestered questions. And so you'll be escorted to 26B, circle the sequestered questions you have a yes answer to, and then we're going to bring you back in here. Okay, so go out, fill out the form. You'll go to 26B, circle these things, and let us know. These are probably some of the more sensitive questions. Now, these include, since you filled out the questionnaire, these are the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, have you read about the case? Do you have training in addiction or abuse? Have you worked in law enforcement? Have you ever been in a lawsuit? Have you ever been accused or been a victim of a crime? Are you impacted by allegations of assault, guns, intimate partner violence, and all those things, many more? What are your views of artists in the hip hop community? Cooperators with immunity. What do you think about them? What do you think about people using pseudonyms? 14, anything else? And when you're called back, you're also going to be shown a list of persons and places. Okay, any other questions? All right. Well, let's go ahead and escort them all out of here back to room 26B. All rise. Get up, put your phone down. All right, jurors are leaving. Prospective jurors leave. Then one female returns, and she starts to read the binder of people and places, starts to read it. Do you recognize any of these things? Flipping through it, no. Judge says, okay. And the prosecutor, someone's taking the binder from the juror, says, well, actually, let the juror keep the copy of the binder in order to say only numbers and not the true names of anything. So like if it's a victim in there, she can reference the victim as a number. All right, judge says, yeah, no problem, we'll do that. Judge says, okay, please bring in juror number 2. All right, juror number 2, I know you have to change the review list. There's any you knew of? Juror number 2 is a male. He says, yes, Your Honor, I knew Michael B. Jordan. I also know Mike Myers, the actor. Also, 190, I've been to that place, the Essex House Hotel. I used to work there, and I've also been to number 9, the Peninsula. So I know these places. Okay. Well, is anything in that makes you unfair? Could you be fair? Yes. And there were yes to answers to the 14 question number 14. Yes, Your Honor, I'm a massage therapist and I've had training. Okay, and in your questionnaire on question 10, can you explain your yes? Can we discuss this in open court? He says, yes, no problem, Your Honor. Yeah, my sister was beaten by her ex-husband years ago, got a black eye resulting in termination of their marriage. Okay, and if that happened to your ex-wife, can you be fair even though, I'm sorry, to your sister? Can you still be fair even though that happened to your sister? Yes, I can. And in your questionnaire, you say you've heard about the case on WNYC and NPR. Is that true? Yeah. But I haven't made any decisions about the case. Thank you, sir. All right, please return to courtroom 26B. Any challenge for cause on this one, says the judge. Maureen Comey, prosecutor. No, Your Honor. We definitely love that dude because his sister got walloped in the face by her ex-husband. Yeah, no, we like him. Defense is like, yes, Your Honor. We challenge. His sister got walloped. In his questionnaire, he says that Diddy probably was engaged in this. And so the judge says, yeah. But then he said he could still be fair. So I overrule you. You can, of course, use a peremptory on him if you want to strike him because his sister got beat up and this is a domestic violence type of case. Then you can strike him on your own, but I'm going to keep him. So bring in the next juror. So that's not good for Diddy. All right, judge says, all right, listen, female, juror number 133. Next juror is a female. Good evening, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. You reviewed the list. Is there anybody here that you recognize? I do. Yeah. 133. Okay. So that's a celebrity, right? Yeah. Could you still be fair? Yeah. I know there are a lot of celebrities on this list. Well, put them to the side. Any other places that you recognize? No, I don't know any of them. Anything else? Well, I have a family member, Your Honor, who went through something like this, so it would be difficult to sit through this. You know, it would make me uncomfortable to sit through this, she says. Okay. Well, I excuse you, so you're done. Thanks for saying that. Head down to the jury room, and thanks for being here. All right, next, juror number 5. What about this list, juror? You know anybody? No, knew none of them. But on the places 4A, or on these other questions, 4A and C, yes. Oh, so you had training on those? Yeah, e-learning. I did some e-learning on harassment, and I've seen psychiatrists. You've had their services? You got psychiatric services? Yeah. You can be fair? Yes, I can be fair. Well, what about question 7 when you were talking about capital punishment? He says, I'm against capital punishment. And on question 26, what have you heard about this case? Well, last week I saw a video of Diddy allegedly assaulting another person in a hotel. But I'm still presuming his innocence. That's not good. Judge says, well, I see no grounds to excuse for cause. Do you? Prosecutor, no. Defense, no. We liked him. Okay. Okay, juror number 6. All right, I had HR training, and my son is a law clerk in Connecticut. The judge says, my. You, sir, have great handwriting. You wrote, you say, an image? 6, hotel hall? Yeah. Any questions, Miss Comey? No, none for me. From Combs? Yeah, I do. They go up sidebar. He says, okay, sir, in question 27, you said the image could be damning. Why did you say that? He says, it was a photo. I didn't see something. It didn't seem to be something wanted. Judge says, well, I don't agree. I don't see any grounds to exclude that, juror. I agree, says Maureen Comey. Defense says, but she used strong language, Your Honor. She said damning evidence. She tried to rehabilitate herself, but it's just too far. Okay, I'll exclude her from cause. Your Honor, you can't excuse her. She said presumed innocent, though. And we're the ones who've decided not to use the CNN video, and there's been no ruling on that by Your Honor, so we should keep her. Well, based on the questionnaire only, I'm excluding her. Okay, let's go to 15. Juror 15 is a male. He comes in. Your Honor, I can't serve on this jury, okay? I just started a new job. I work in a hotel. I'll get fired. He says, all right, you're excused. All right, juror number 20, you're next. Female. She says, I know a couple of musicians, 88 and 16, and I have training from May 12th through the 15th. She says, well, if you got training, if you got selected, you're not going to your training. Well, I have to go. I was a mandatory reporter as a teacher at the parochial school in the Bronx, and I have a friend on Yonkers PD. And when I was 16, I was caught shoplifting at Universal Studios at Harry Potter World. And I had to be a lawyer. The judge said, oh, you were 16, huh? You stole from Harry Potter. What'd you take? She says, a wand. You wrote you may have liked a post on Instagram. He says, yeah, I think so. She says, it was a comedian about the baby oil. It's funny. Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, it was just a comedy seller comedian. You know, no one I follow. She leaves. She sounds hilarious. I don't see any grounds to excuse her. Yeah, no. You? No. Okay, that's fine. Next, number 22. She stole a Harry Potter wand and laughs about baby oil jokes. Okay. Next is a female. Hi, ma'am. Thanks for being here. You said here on your form you have ocular migraines. Is that right? She said, well, it hasn't happened in months, but when it does, I have to cover my eyes for like 20 to 40 minutes. Oh, no. Well, what kind of work do you do? What's your job? It says, I do web maintenance and secretarial. I took the Tralliant training on harassment. She says, you know, this is real life, she says. Whatever is going to occur in your courtroom is real life. Judge says, okay, well, what's bothering you, ma'am? It's unfamiliar for me to have my answers matter very much. No one listens to this poor woman. Okay, well, all right. So, yeah, it matters. So, kidnapping, arson. Can you be fair? She says, it's like foreign to me. It's like a problem. Okay, well, why is it USA versus Sean Combs instead of a person versus Sean Combs? I was curious. I saw someone get run over by a train. I was okay with it. I mean, not okay, but I did not become a second problem. I tend to shut down and call 911. The video is detached. And I was one drunk and disorderly in Massachusetts. The judge is like, all right, listen, lady, can you be fair in this trial? Yes. Can you take 8 weeks off your job? Well, I'll ask him. Prosecutor Comey says, question number 10. Your Honor, she said that she would prefer to answer this in person. You want to answer this now? She says, I'm fine. Well, something happened with a dentist. My parents didn't pay him. They sent me to work for him. I was confused about authority. I went to, I guess you'd call it therapy about it. Okay, so she got attacked by a dentist. So, oh gosh. So she gets dental work. The parents are like, well, we can't pay for it, so you can just take it out of our daughter. They send the daughter to work with the dentist. What did the dentist do? Nothing good. How long did it last? 2 years. I think there is abuse every day, she said. I think it made me a better person ultimately. You know, perpetrators are often unaware. Some fulfill a victim role. He says, well, don't go look up what RICO is, okay? Because she's confused. Defense comes up. Your Honor, may we approach on this woman here? They come back. Judge, is there anything from the dentist's office that happened to you that's going to impact this? Can you be fair since you got fondled by your boss? Yes, I can be fair. All right. So you go back to the room. Thanks for being here. He says, I see no reason to excuse her at all. Defense goes, what? Your Honor, she shut down and misdirected or redirected. I sensed the struggle within her. She was like dying over this thing. Judge says, overruled. Defense attorney says, all right, fine. Can we take a pee? We got to go. He says, all right, let's try to get through at least 10 more jurors, and then we'll continue. Some voice in the background says, I'm a little nervous today. The judge says, okay, fine. All right, we'll break. Okay, fine. Potty break. Everyone just relax. All right. Now we're back. All right, please take a seat, says the judge. Next juror's in here. All right, sir. Are anything about your views on Kanye West that would make you unfair? No. What do you know about this case? Well, there were accusations of violent behavior. I saw a hallway video while at the gym dragging her down. I saw that, yeah. Defense says, can we have a quick sidebar? Very briefly. What? Whispered sidebar. All right, last question, sir, says the judge. Did you ever talk with any other people about this case? No. Have you ever expressed an opinion about this case? No, I don't even have social media. All right, thank you, sir. Back to 26B. Any objections? No, none. All right, Judge, you can just pass questions up to me. Comey says, well, Your Honor, I'd like to see them first. Of course. Next jurors, number 28. On question 13, you said yes on an accusation of a crime. Is that right? Juror number 28 is a lady. Says, well, my mom worked for a bank and stole money. You wrote you were unsure, though. Well, all I know is that he was arrested. Leaves. The judge says, well, I don't think there's any grounds to exclude her based on this. You guys agree? Yep, both sides agree. Okay, next. All right, juror number 29. What about you? You travel for work. Is that right? Yeah. Can you stop? Well, I mean, I could. It'd be very inconvenient for me to stop traveling for my work, but I could do it. Well, where do you work? HBO. What? Any people on the list you recognize? Well, Michael B. Jordan, I do, and Kid Cudi, I remember, but I don't know his music. Also, my sister and I were molested by a family member. Oh, great. Oh, who did that? A cousin. Says, I think I would feel empathy for the victims, but I'm a logical person. But I've also seen the video, and it was disturbing. But I don't know the full story, so, all right. Defense says, Your Honor, we have a proposed question. He hands it over to Comey. She looks at it, hands it up to the judge. Has the case ever been discussed at HBO? Juror says, well, in the hall, yeah, that he was arrested. We talked a little bit about that. Anything else? All right, nothing. He leaves. Judge says, okay, well, he seems fine to me. I see no reason to exclude him. Defense attorney, Your Honor, come on. HBO put out a negative documentary. They put out a whole movie about this case. They called it The Fall of Diddy. It was in the past 6 weeks. He works at HBO. They're dunking on him in their films. Ms. Comey, That's true. Is there an appearance of impropriety here? Your Honor, no. HBO makes lots of documentaries, so he doesn't know what that was or what they're working on. That's a great point, Maureen. I overrule the defense for now. Next juror comes in. Yeah, Your Honor, I recognize the name. It's Kanye West, obviously. And I'm the chief marketing officer at Simon and Schuster. And we have a book by another hip hop artist. It's a memoir. It's called Do You Believe Me Now? It's by a male artist. Yeah, there it is. Could you close off anything about the book in your brain while you're listening to this trial? Well, I mean, I'd have to tell my colleague, don't send me any more press releases about the book. Can you do that? Yes. Sorry, Your Honor. Just a joke. Okay. I have a question, says the defense. Hands up. Question, Your Honor. Is this a salaried position? He says, well, my bonus, yeah, but my bonus is tied to the book. So the better the books do, the bigger my bonus is. So, yeah. Juror leaves. Defense attorney. Your Honor, the press release refers to a mysterious 2018 death here. It says the trial will include a discussion of Kim Porter and AIB, Al B. Right? Judge says, oh, it does. Okay, so if he works over there at Simon and Schuster, the book place, and it's got all these other people there. Maureen, isn't this too close to home, Madam Prosecutor? No, Your Honor, I don't think so. No, we're not going to hear much about Mr. Brown or Miss Porter. But sure, if you think it is too close to home, then we can exclude him. Okay, fine, excluded. Next juror comes in, says, Your Honor, I'm in college right now. I'm at CUNY, and I got to log in for a class at 4:50 p.m. every night. So, like, I'm in big trouble if I'm not on that class. Could it work if you left here at 4 p.m.? How do you view the class? He says, on my phone, I just log on. I know Dallas of Austin. I know from news about Sean Combs' children. I also know the choreographer called Lorianne Gibson. He says, I used to watch Making the Band on the TVs. I saw Don Richards and Harve Pierre and Michelle Williams, and I know of Cassie Ventura. I've seen things in the news. Well, what have you seen? Well, the video of the mistreatment, Judge. But I can listen objectively, though. My fiance had a felony case in drugs, and he pled guilty. He got 4 years. He came home and won, though. He got out, no problem. I'm aware of his music dating back to the 1990s from the radio, and she loves this dude. Well, I see no grounds for excluding her. Parties agree. Okay. So she might be good too. All right, next juror, juror number 52. So far, we're getting like a lot of good people. Now, I believe it would be it says, let's back up. Next juror, 52. It says here on your form, juror, that you have to travel to the Spirit Weavers Gathering. What is that? It's a woman event. We go dancing in the woods. Oh, great. Sounds like a freak off type of situation. You'd have to miss it. Well, I believe it would be available in future years. Now, I had experience with assault in college. A neighbor, we were flirting and he took it too far. I think a lot of women have been harassed or assaulted. And I don't think it makes the person you did it a horrible person in all respects. I have a psychology degree in women's self-esteem. You have a master's? No, bachelor's. Oh. I work at a bougie design firm called Pentagram. Well, what do they design? Fonts? He says, oh, you mean like Courier? She says, oh, God, no, never. Courier? No. She like threw up in court. Which is, it's not a bad font, actually, but it's, it's just a little outdated, a little old, that's all. Juror 52 says, I see no grounds to exclude. Parties agree? Yeah, that's fine. We'll let the font woman on. All right, juror 55 is back. Says, you got an open bottle ticket? What is that? You got an open bottle ticket? She says, yes. Shame on you, says the judge. Laughs. Now, I'm in the Department of Corrections, she says. I'm in charge of incarcerated's account. Been involved in litigation? Yeah. Says, I sued the Port Authority a while back. I hurt my back on an escalator. They settled. You also wrote on your form that you were arrested for fraud. Is that true? Yeah, I was in a car accident. I went to physical therapy, but it got raided, and I was accused of insurance fraud. So I pled guilty to that. All right, well, I see no grounds to excuse you. And the parties agree. So that juror is looking like he's going on. Now we break for lunch. Fast forward, and we're back. Juror 60 is in the courtroom. The judge says, all right, juror, now you answered that you or someone close to you were victims of assault or harassment. Is that true? Would you prefer to discuss this privately? Says yes. They go back. They talk. Judge says, okay, juror 60, you're excused. Thanks for that horrific story. The deputy will now tell you where to go next, and good luck in your life. Next juror comes in, female. Yeah, Your Honor. I know 3 or 4 people on this list. I mean, not personally, but I know of them, like Dallas Austin, Don Richards. I mean, I grew up watching MTV. Says also, I was hit by a car one time. I got foot surgery, and my boyfriend at the time got a titanium plate in the Bronx. My uncle was charged with R-ing his then baby mama. Hey, your uncle. Okay, well, if all that happened to you, can you be fair? I might have. I think it wouldn't be a problem. You know, the details were vague. I also saw a documentary on HBO. Okay, any further questions? Yeah, Maureen Comey says, I got one, prosecutor. Shows the defense, then the judge. Judge says, if you heard testimony from people that you saw on HBO on that documentary, would you believe them? Well, that would depend. I don't remember much from that film. Juror leaves. Your Honor. All right, we move to strike that juror. This juror hesitated, saying, about the HBO documentary, we anticipate that some of these people who were in that documentary are going to come and testify at this trial, and we ask for exclusion on that. Defense says, no, Your Honor, no way. Saying she could be fair. We want to keep her. Defense wants to keep her. The judge says, oh, she's gone. She's excluded. See how that works? Juror 63 is a male. Your Honor, yeah, I was picked up by the police. I thought it was for no reason, and I didn't like it at all on several occasions, and I can't wipe it from my memory. So what would you think about law enforcement agents as witnesses? Well, I'd take it with a grain of salt. Those with immunity, too. I can't trust them. Shout out to this dude. This dude would be like a friend, like we'd be like, best friends. 63. Yeah. I thought it was for no reason. You trust law enforcement? No. Anybody with immunity, do you trust? No. Thanks. He's excluded. Bye. Juror 65 comes in. Yeah. And says, I got to take care of my child, Judge. I could try, but about guilt or innocence, I don't know. So in other words, you have to see the evidence first, right? Yes, Your Honor. Sorry. I had trouble understanding the questions. He gets excused. Like this guy can't even understand anything. Yes, sir. You're excused. Juror number 70 comes in. Now she works in a lab in a hospital. Your Honor, I got training for this stuff, but I have problems with legal words. Also, when a man pushes a woman, he does not mean it. What happened? Well, my husband. Well, what happened? He pleaded guilty and they took him to jail. Okay, so husband pushed her. She doesn't think it's a big deal. Husband went to jail. Judge says, all right, you're gone. Now, juror 81 is another woman. Tell me about you. Well, I'm a behavioral health associate. I work at Elmhurst Hospital. I deal with psychiatrists daily. Do you deal with any patients with trauma? Oh, yeah. They all have trauma. I was with the Department of Homeless Services Police, and there's a lot of trauma. You meant something about your son's prom. What did you write in here about that? Well, my ex-husband was convicted of attempted human elimination in Brooklyn, served 21 years. Man, we got some hard folks in this panel. 21 years of attempted M. What was the victim's name? I don't remember. My stepson was getting bullied on the block. He came to the block with some friends. There was gunfire. Not good. And okay, well, any applications here? None. Okay. Next juror. She comes in. Yeah, Your Honor, I heard a lot about this. What'd you hear? Well, when it was breaking, I heard about the house raids. I heard about the arrest. I heard about Cassie, the artist, and all these things. Can you be fair? Yes. Any objections to this juror? No. So she's not excluded. All right, great. All right, next one, 89. I know this person called Diageo. And what do you do, sir? Well, I'm a sales manager with an airline. All right. And my sister is a federal prosecutor in San Antonio. She works mostly on immigration. And can you be fair? Yeah, definitely. Growing up, the neighbors were a high profile couple. I was closer in age with the girlfriend. My parents asked me to be the peacemaker. And then juror 89 is excused. So don't know what happened there. That sounds like an interesting story. Yeah. Juror 92 is next. She's a woman. Your Honor, I'd like to serve, but my child's in the hospital. Yes, ma'am. You're excused. Go be with your child. Juror 106. Yeah, hi, Your Honor. I'm with Engender Health. I'm on the board of St. John's Hospital in Yonkers. I have a friend at the Manhattan Alvin Bragg's office, gross, repping the LGBTQ community there. Oh, gosh. Can you be fair? Yes, leaves. Next juror, 110. Your Honor, I can't be here. I got job interviews planned. I need a job. All right, you're excused. 116 says, I can't stand videos of skateboarders going down on the ground. I just can't do it, Judge. But can you be fair? Yes. Even if they're skateboarders? Yes. You wrote you saw the hallway video. Well, I didn't see much of it. Your Honor, I have a written question, says the defense, passes it up through Comey up there. Skateboarders, I don't know. Yeah. How can you watch violence in court but not on TV? He says, well, the latter is staged. On TV, it's fake. So I just can't watch it in court. I can watch it on TV, but I can't watch it here. Well, you can be on the jury. Says, all right. Now, I'm going to want to question the juror from HBO, Your Honor, but I don't want to ask them in front of others. Judge says, well, we'll get to that. We're not there yet. Bring in the next one, 117. Juror 117 says, Your Honor, yeah, my wife actually deposed Sean Combs in a case about a stampede. Has your wife expressed negative views about him? Yes. Did you tell your wife you're on this case? No. But another prospective juror who knows my wife saw me and told her. Write that juror's name on this Post-it note. Busted! My adopted adult daughter also has been abused. Prosecutor, Your Honor, I have a question. Passes it up. Can you not talk about this case with your wife? Yes. And if you're chosen, I will order you not to speak about this case with her at all. Is that okay? Excused. All right. Well, what's the name of the other juror, Judge? That guy got excused. Who is the name of the other juror? Says, I'll tell you that later. We continue. Juror 118 is next. Your Honor, I know Combs has parties with drugs and freak-offs. I learned it from a podcast because I listened to Joe Rogan. Great show. What's up, Joe? Hey, can you be fair even though you listen to Joe Rogan? Yes, not excused. And they're moving fast, says Matthew Russell Lee. Defense, Your Honor, I want to question that HBO witness. He says, well, you can make an application, but right now we're doing the group questions and we're not doing these excused jurors yet. Juror 5 comes back, says, I live in Manhattan. I work in finance. I'm a churchgoer, member in Connecticut, but I attend the St. John Baptiste on the Upper East Side Church. And juror 22 is here. I work in web maintenance. I get newsletters from local politicians like Harvey Epstein. I don't have a TV. I look Toots and the Mytals. I'm a member of a community garden. Okay, that's nice. Well, I wanted to ask you about migraines, sir, because we're going to have a lot of TVs here. The evidence is going to be on the TV screens. Can you see that? Juror 20. I live in Westchester alone. I got 2 master's degrees, bachelor's in PR, and then sports science. I binge watch Netflix. I like alternative rock, and I play volleyball. 116 says, I'm 68 years old, worked for the phone company as a field tech. I listen to 1010 Wins AM. Juror number 2, we're getting back to some group questions, it sounds like. Says, well, I'm a massage therapist. I'm single. I am a BFA in acting from NYU. I listen to NPR. I like jazz. I go to the gym. I'm an SAG in Actors Equity. Juror 52, she's a woman from Westchester. She's into freelance writing. She's ready at the NYU, mostly cooking app. She reads the NYU. Font Woman is back. Judge loves it. Could you tell me more about the fonts? Like what kind? Like Calibri, Comic Sans? Are you a Times New Roman person? Do you like serif or sans serif? Would you like to get some coffee after this? I wrote the rebrand for an environmental company. Wow. Now I work at Gristide, says the next juror. I have a bachelor's in retail management. Any social media that you use? Not for news. I use TikTok, Facebook, Hulu, and Reggaeton. 51 is a math teacher in the Bronx. Says he watches the Bronx News 12. I like the Golden Girls, 90s and before, R&B, hip hop, gospel. This other one worked at Fila in marketing. News comes from social media, business of fashion, ESPN, watches The Voice, likes country music. 55 works at a nursing home. So does her spouse. I went for the hotel management, not a fan of the news, likes Harry Potter, maybe stole that wand or not. I watch that in Narnia and Marvel, and I'm in 1199. 75 worked for JP Morgan, listen to old Indian music and plays cricket. 118 is a teacher. Wife is an occupational therapist. We play tennis, masters in health. I don't watch the news. Is on Instagram, watches the Yankees games, and likes the Beatles. 106 works at Engender Health. MBA in finance, reads The Atlantic, Harper's podcast, The Bulwark, and Daily. 58 lives in the Bronx, head account clerk for Edgecombe Correctional Facility. Also, baseball, likes the Mets, listens to Reggaeton. 25 has a PhD in molecular biology, listens to NPR, which is going to be losing their funding. I like documentaries about climate change. My domestic partner, he is a graphic designer. Okay. I'm in Manhattan. I work at Elmhurst Hospital. 127, my spouse is a doctor of Chinese medicine. 127 is a publication in Dobbs Ferry that I read. I like dramatic things. I watched White Lotus. I like bluegrass. I run and go to the gym. I gather that the congestion pricing case is not on this floor. 29 is back. I work at HBO. I'm 55 years old. I read Food Magazine. On TV, I like British detective shows on PBS. I like 70s or 80s classic rock. I bake, read books, museum art galleries. I do yoga. You're a photo producer? Yeah, like the stills on the buses. Oh, do you cover all the HBO shows? Well, I worked on White Lotus, Bill Maher. I have about 10 shows I do. How many photo producers are there at HBO? 5. I worked on Tokyo Vice. Thanks, says the judge. Juror 84 is a mover and packer, reads food magazines. 84 watches the NBA. Well, which team? Golden State Warriors. Let me see the lawyers at the sidebar, says the judge. All right, jurors, you may leave. Now, you will hear from the jury department. Don't post anything on the internet and don't read about the case. I'm going to see some of you back here on May 12th. Your Honor, says Maureen Comey, I don't know. She may not show talking about this person. Will victim 3 testify, says Maureen? I don't know. Are you going to mention her in your opening arguments? Well, I don't expect so, Your Honor. I don't think we're going to mention victim 3. But if she were to testify, it would be in the second half. All right. Well, if you can, tell the defense about your opening and whether you're going to be referencing that victim or not. Defense attorney Brian Steele. Your Honor, could we enter your courthouse at 7 or 7:15 so we could meet up with Mr. Combs just to get here a little bit early? Judge says, that's fine by me. Just make sure you check with the marshals to get this worked out. We are adjourned. So it sounds like they may have picked a jury, basically. They got enough people there. If you do the math on that, to get, I think we got enough of them on there. So we might be done with that. But it sounds like a wild group of people. So other news entities will, of course, tell us how many men, how many women, all different ethnicities, different colors, different religion, and all the things. But that's how it went down. So we're very close to a jury. And it sounds like we may not have much activity back here tomorrow or afterwards. Otherwise, the judge would have said, we'll see you back here tomorrow. And with that done, we can then take it from there and have the trial begin. Now, that, of course, will be happening next week on Monday, starting on the 12th. Here was more reporting from outside the courtroom. on scene.
Michael Sisak of the Associated Press is at the courthouse in New York. He joins me now live. Thanks for being with us. So, Michael, take us through the first couple of hours of jury selection.
Good morning. Yeah, so jury selection is underway in the courthouse behind me. So far, a little bit of a slow going. The lawyers, the judge, going through questionnaires that prospective jurors have filled out in advance and bringing them in one by one to ask them questions about some of their answers, digging deeper on things like their knowledge of the charges, their knowledge of the evidence, and even their connections possibly to law enforcement, to lawyers, to the criminal justice system. So far, we've seen several people, prospective jurors, say that they have seen the infamous 2016 video in which Sean Combs is seen attacking, assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie. That is a key piece of evidence in this case. One woman described it as a damning piece of evidence. She was excused from consideration and rejected from possible service on this jury.
And we know there have been so many twists and turns in this story. Michael, remind us of how we got here and what charges Sean Combs is facing.
Yeah, Sean Combs is charged with sex trafficking. He's charged with racketeering. It's a case that normally you would see brought in a drug trafficking or in a mafia type environment. Here, the prosecutors allege that Sean Combs.
Lots of charges. We went through them in detail, but sounds like we've got a jury or are very, very close. And the trial will be underway in just a few short days. And we'll be covering it, provided you'd like to see what is happening there. So if you would, please let us know. Thanks for leaving a comment or liking the video. And then we'll be back here with more Diddy updates and baby oil. All right. So, my friends, if you're just joining us, what a great stream it has been. We talked about this emergency application. That is from D. John Sauer's words, saying that the Supreme Court now needs to do something about this injunction problem. What was that rhyme? I just had flashbacks to that rhyme. Conjunction, junction, once your function. What was that from? Like third grade? Anyways, we went through it. It was a good read. We saw from D. John Sauer, this involves Doge and how this lower level judge said that basically Trump and the Doge team can't have access to certain data that they need in order to do their job. So we read through the full filing. They're knocking on the door of the Supreme Court. We're waiting once again for John Roberts. Or is that Schoolhouse Rock? Was that what it was from? I remember that. I'm just a bill. That guy? Yeah, I remember that guy. I don't know why that popped into my brain, but all right. So we had that. We then talked. We heard from President Trump. We are seeing what's happening at the Supreme Court. We're waiting for them to do something, anything. And of course, when that happens, we'll be here. Now, we also then turned our attention to Combs, and we've got this trial underway. Let's do a quick refresh over here on the court docket to see when we're, yeah, okay. So transcripts here. Yeah, all right. So trial scheduled for next week. We read through the latest here. We've got the order for voir dire. We went through some jury selection today. Diddy's going to have some new clothes, 5 button-down shirts, 5 pairs of pants, 5 pairs of socks, 5 sweaters, 2 pairs of shoes, no laces in court over the next little bit. So we got jurors. We read through the jury questionnaire to see what they filled out before they were called in there and asked questions. And now Inner City Press will keep us up to speed on the latest, reporting from inside the courtroom. So once again, thank you to Matthew Russell Lee at Inner City Press for doing this reporting so we can cover it here. Wouldn't be able to do it without him. So make sure you're giving him a follow over on the X platforms, supporting him on Patreon and elsewhere, and saying thank you for his reporting on our behalf if you see him out there. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this and more. It's a beautiful Monday. I hope your weekend was outstanding. I hope you're bursting full of energy and that you've got a good jump on your to-do list and your email inbox. And you're ready for a great week. Let's see who's joining us. I see some great donos. Thank you, my friends, for sending in these super chats. Thanks for becoming membos and joining in on the fun. We had a fun stream today, this morning, too, for our membos. Yeah, we had some Star Wars. Governor Pritzker dressed up in Star Wars. Amazing. Just amazing. All right, today, happy Monday. Oh, isn't that just adorable? It's President Xi Jinping playing around with a butterfly. Adorable. What's up, Liz McNay? Just became a supporter. Liz, thank you for doing that. You too, Serrano Guardias. Thanks for becoming members. Grab the stream from this morning on the YouTubes. It's a lot of fun. Hey, Captain Patriot says you're completely off on YouTube, no longer streaming live. Well, that would be a big problem if that was true. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it was just a problem. A little bit of a snafu there, Captain. I think we're live over there now, but thanks for the heads up, Captain Patriot, for flagging us, and thanks for watching on Rumble. Hey, James Vickery says, Diddy finally gets his day in court. In recent times, too many people have been unreasonably subjected to penal detention. Yeah, I'm real curious where everybody's going to fall on the Diddy one, you know, because obviously the dude is a disgusting person, and I have no doubt that there are crimes there, but it feels like we're in this interesting pattern where the one person who's at the center becomes the scapegoat for a much, much bigger cabal of people, or a much bigger operation, right? We saw it, FBI raids Trump, cleanup operation. The FBI cleans out Joe Biden's classified documents, cleanup operation. FBI cleans out Hillary's stuff, cleanup operation. And the list goes on and on. Epstein, cleanup operation. So why is this not a cleanup operation? I don't know. What's up, James Vickery? Hey, Mock Schnell is bringing in 20 new members. Thank you for doing that. More speed. Izzy, poor mama, is here. 2 tragedies in life. What's up? What about me? Thank you. The Silverback is here. We got Miss B, Mad Nana. What's up, Pete Leonard? Wayward 1. Is that a ham radio code? AA9W. Shout out. What's up, Wayward 1? La Forwa in the house. What's up, Jeff? Great to see you. We got Chris Groner. Ghost of Freddie Mercury's immune system is back. Wow. Welcome, Ghost of Freddie Mercury's immune system. Wow. James Crow. Jimmy, he's here. Sheila Pooh shouting out. What's up, Jay Iron Thunder? We got Mello, Joseph Clark. What's up, Weather Cat? Raggedy Hobo is here. Santa and No Never. Just gifted membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Bringing in more speed. What's up, Mock Schnell? Oh, yeah, this morning we talked about the Second Amendment, too. Hey, Rob, thanks for the Second Amendment Hawaii info this morning. This has been called the vampire rule. Flip upside down where a state says a store has to say it's okay for you to conceal carry instead of what the Second Amendment states. Yeah. Yeah, I learned a lot about that this morning. Hawaii had this rule where basically, you know, the Supreme Court said you can carry. They said essentially you can't unless the private property owner gives you affirmative permission. So it's just like a way to invert the rule. It was interesting. Anyways, if you're not a member, we'll have a segment on that coming out later. But thanks for becoming a member to catch it live. What's up, Abel Baker? Hey, check your midterm primary date. In Ohio, it's May 6th, tomorrow. This battle is just beginning. Our nation's future hangs on your vote. I'm with you on that, Abel Baker. We're just getting started here, man. Like any Republicans or anybody on our side who thinks, oh, it's easy, we're just going to coast for the next 3.5 years. Absolutely not. No. We have to increase our power level to new heights that have never been met before, and we're going to do it. Doan, what's up? Says, I'm thinking the left is torching its wig over Doge and Elon's AI apparatus installing secure firewalls around our entire federal infrastructure. Yeah, there's something really strange about the Social Security stuff, too. It's like these are little firewalls, like you said, that are slowly following USAID, all the NGOs, kind of just one after another. And they're getting more and more desperate as the outer walls are being breached and you're getting to the core defense mechanism, you know? Thank you, Doan. Voice of the People says, Loudoun County learned nothing from that boy in a skirt. Now it's SA for boys to become uncomfortable with a girl recording them in a locker room? It's a great question, Voice of the People. I'm not familiar with that story, but sounds like you're probably covering it over at Off Label Podcast right next door. Jeffrey Adams says, I continue to say that Justice Roberts is at fault. He is weak. Weak men create hard times, and you know the rest of the story. Then we need strong men to get rid of the weak men, I think, something like that. Just, different phrases or different, however that goes. He is weak. He could have solved this a long time ago, Jeffrey Adams, but for some reason he's trying to tap dance around the big issues. FD Man, what's up, FD Man, says Congress needs to start pulling the purse strings on these inferior district courts. Yeah, we talked about this morning too. I feel like Mike Johnson is just so focused on this one big, beautiful bill that they can't do anything else. And I was very critical of him last week. Where the hell is he? Where the hell are the Republicans, the Judiciary Committee, all these people? But it's hard for them to actually have multiple efforts if those efforts detract from the main effort, which at this moment is just the big, beautiful bill. They just have to get that done no matter what. So anyways, thank you, Captain Patriot. Doesn't working for the government negate most of your privacy the second you sign on to that job, especially when it comes to your work for the government? The YouTube feed stopped, says Captain Patriot. Was that Captain Patriot from above? Yeah, it was. That was weird. I'm sorry what happened. I don't know what happened to your YouTube feeds over there. What's going on? Thank you, Captain Patriot. Yeah, you'd figure when you sign up to work with the government, the government is going to have different employees at the top and it's going to change hands. So don't act like you're suddenly surprised now because you lost the election. Mark Schnell, 20 new membos, Mark Schnell, even more membos coming in. Thank you for doing this. What's up, Cameron Ward? Welcome. Randy's retired. We got Debbie here. Mr. Furley, what's up, Erdy? Daniel Sanchez, Castro Valley Lip, Debbie Marie, Jennifer Gray, we got Forgotten Pepe, James Fields, what's up, Debbie Burgess, Jackie Randazzo, we got Lieutenant Remu, Don and Doodle, Shantae Akpafiong, what's up? Charlene S., Ron Quay, Joe Carrera, Scruffy the Janitor is here, all courtesy of Mock Schnell, bringing in 20 new membo friends. Thanks for doing that, Mock Schnell. We appreciate you. Rick D shared this from the Privacy Act of 1974, saying a government employee accessing information does not violate the act. Here's why. It prohibits the disclosure of a record about an individual from a system of records without their permission, unless it is an exception. The act also provides individuals with the means by which to seek access and an amendment of their records. And so it's not a violation. From Rick D. Thank you, Rick. And thanks, Rick, for sharing the links in the Lodge chat. We appreciate you. I see you over there. What's up, Doan? What's up, Doan? Says Dems and rhinos hating their grift being kneecapped. Yeah, but they have to disguise injunctions in ridiculously absurd compositions. SCOTUS has to move on it. Yeah, it's like, come on. The Maryland judge is going back to intrusion upon seclusion and going back to the torts to create some claim here to issue a nationwide injunction to stop an executive branch action. What are you doing? You're just making it up at this point. This is the thing with the law. It's like you can find a justification to do anything you want. Even Boasberg is holding Trump in contempt when he has no jurisdiction over the case. Wild times. Waldo, what's up, Waldo? Thanks for bringing in one new membo. Gardening LSB, gifted a membo. We'll see you inside. Gardening LSB. Savage Studio says, Gen Z's Diddy trial will likely be the theatrical equivalent to Gen X's O.J. Simpson trial, minus the white Bronco and Kato Kaline, of course, LMAO. Yeah, that white Bronco moment was like an American symbol. It's like an American icon moment. Remember that? I don't know how old I was. Young. What the hell's going on over here? It was wild. Yeah, I remember it. I remember our whole school paused for the verdict. It was in second grade. The whole school paused. What's going on, Savage Studios? We'll see. We'll see if people follow it. What's up? Voice of the People says, I feel like Diddy will walk. There's a reason most of Biden's judges were very lenient on the child SA cases. Yeah, I got to say, man, so we reviewed the original indictment. There have been two new indictments, two superseding indictments that have come out after the fact and have added some additional charges to it. And it's a strange case. The whole RICO thing, if Diddy is guilty for these crimes, many more people are guilty of these crimes. We'll see what comes out in the evidence. Hey, no just for men for Diddy at the Metro Commissary. No just for men. for Diddy at the Metro Commissary. Was that a band? Just for Men? Or was it Boys to Men? I think it was Boys to Men. What's Just for Men? Oh, is that hair stuff for his grayed hair? Maybe that's what that's for. I don't know what's going on in there, but it's probably a bunch of freak off stuff. I don't know. Knox, what's up? Happy Cinco de Mayo. Thank you, Knox. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you. So excited to be back in trial together. The politics have been a blast, but Rob does court so well. I think trial will be fun too. Yeah, I think so too. I think so, Knox. And we'll split it up. We'll do a little bit of little politics, a little trial. We'll see how it goes. And then we'll do a full Diddy playlist, provided you want to watch. If we're covering it, nobody's watching, then we'll switch to something else. But if there's interest, we'll cover it because they can be fun. And this case, it's going to be wild. What's up, FD man? Laces can be used to eliminate yourself or to eliminate someone else, counselor. You know this, bro. Yeah, I wasn't going to explain it like you did, but you did it. So thanks for doing it. Yeah, no laces because they could be dangerous. Take the laces out. What's up, Rick D? Any person who works for the U.S. government is required to sign a Privacy Act statement release as part of their intake. This is the Army version printed on the inside cover of every 2001 file. Yeah, that's what it looks like right there. Privacy Act. Here, fill it out. And they said, but not for Doge. They didn't know it was going to go to Doge. Yeah, thank you, Rick D, for that. And sharing the receipts there. We love it. Yeah, no, we didn't think that Diddy was going to trip on his shoelaces and make a fool of himself. What's up, Gen X Ben? Once I asked, is a prison guard law enforcement? I was excused. Later, you out one of the charges was while in prison. Later, you found out one of the charges was while in prison. Yeah. You were excused for that question? Interesting. Good to see you, Gen X Ben. So you didn't make the jury. Probably better. What's up, Will Crump? What disciplinary actions need to be taken against Ketanji after her public threat against Trump for promoting judicial misconduct? I didn't look into her statement too much, but I mean, not much. What you can impeach her, or you can stack the court, or John Roberts can get a handle on the internal operations. But Ketanji just likes to talk a lot, so it doesn't really mean much. Whatever she says, it's irrelevant. FD man. P. Diddy, Big Blank Croc might be cooked by this jury selection. Yeah, the judge definitely make some rulings that did not suit him well. Yeah, Doan Burrill says waiting for 50 Cent to volunteer for jury duty. So do they not like each other? Is there some beef on the streets between 50 and Diddy? I think there is. I'm going to have to get up to speed with my rap. 50 Cent, find me in the club, bottle full of bub, something in a rub, rub-a-dub-dub, 50 Cent in the club. Hey, what's up, Bruce Muir? Senior in the house. They don't like each other? Oh, it's going to be fun. He got shot in the face, didn't he? So, it's a real thing. Bruce Meyer, what's up, Bruce? Welcome to Supporter, and we can't wait to see you on the members-only stream tomorrow morning. Resin Waves by Veronica. Oh, that sounds cool. Resin Waves, like sound healing. Diddy had a lot of hands with the Spanish music industry called reggaeton, paid influencers to push Sean John clothing. Yeah, I kept seeing that come up. A lot of people saying they listen to reggaeton. I've not heard of that. What is reggaeton? I guess it's whatever Sean John says. Molly Wright. Molly. You got this, Molly. Molly Wright, you got this, Molly. That's the gift. Hey, what's up, Molly? Bringing in 5 membos. Thanks for doing it, Molly. We got Tim Showers coming in. Aaron Camon. What's up, Calamity Up? David J. Hoyda and Zuzu Thorns gifted membos, courtesy of Molly. Thank you, Molly, for doing it. Bringing in new membos. Hey, more here. Thank you, more here, for celebrating with us. We did cross that 500,000 subscriber threshold, and man, I'm so excited about that. Thank you for being a part of that if you're out there and you subbed up with us. Couldn't have done it without you, and it's a real honor. And I don't even know what to say other than I'm humbled. I'm grateful. I feel like in many ways we're just getting started, baby. And I'm excited for what's coming. So thanks, more here, for being a part of it. And everybody who subscribed out there. I know I harass you a lot to subscribe. So thanks for being a part of it. I'm grateful. What's up, Deborah Myers? I just sit in the corner and don't say much, but thank you for all you do. I love being a membo and awesome people in here too. Deborah, thank you for that. Yeah, we do. We have a great community. It's a ton of fun, man. We're laughing our butts off all the time. I think we're learning I'm learning a lot. I think I'm becoming a better person because of you and the work that we're doing here together. So hopefully that feeling is mutual, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be useful, have some fun, learn some stuff, make our country amazing. And it's a real honor to be able to spend the time together with you to do it. And I'm grateful for you being here. Thank you for subscribing and for the love. All right. So my friends, that came in from our friends on YouTube. Let's say hello to our friends on Locals and see who sent in some comments over there. And then we'll wrap it up and go over to our after party over there. Oh, we got those. Thank you for those. Yeah, I forgot. Okay, we did get those. Thank you for those. Okay, so my next statement was, let's say hello to our friends on X and see what's happening over on X before we wrap it up and call it a day. What's up? Mini Tika is sharing us over on Rumble. Thank you, Mini Tika, for doing that. Fred Pedamonte says, any person who uses any font other than Times New Roman deserves life in prison without the possibility of parole, says Fred. It's a good statement. There are other sans serif fonts I like. In particular, I do happen to like some of the Google fonts. I like Lato. I like Roboto. I do like Open Sans. I know I like Open Sans. I don't like Comic Sans, okay? Or Papyrus. If you use Papyrus or Comic Sans in anything, or Calibri. Honestly, I'm so sick and tired of Calibri. I don't know why that is still allowed. That font should be banned. All right, I'm sick of it. Even federal officials use Calibri as a default font. They just open up a Word document, start typing in Calibri. Exercise some creative skill set, please, and just change your font, for crying out loud. George, I have not been able to watch the full intro all this week. I watched from YouTube. Well, hopefully you get to it, George. And thank you, Diane. Love the hosts and the mods. We have a great community. No doubt about that. Garamond. Oh, we got a classy, Nancy classy Garamond. Wow. Hey, Surfing Bird uses the Dingbats font, which is like, have you ever used that font? He's at a different IQ level, no doubt about it. Rick D. Hang on, Rob. I'll post it in the chat. What are we asking about there? I forgot what that was. Okay, well, hang on for it. What's up? Okay, so my friends, we'll leave it there on the day. It has been a beautiful stream. Comic Sans for your resume and your legal filings. Yeah, submit that in the court. Hilarious. All right, so my friends, what a beautiful stream it has been. Thank you for supporting us. Thanks for sending in those donos. Thanks for becoming membos. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for hanging out here and being a part of the show. Don't mind me as an Arial black man myself. Bold. Standard and bold. Nice. Very nice. Okay, so Bookman Antigua. That's a pretty good one, too. You guys are classy. You like your serifs on there, huh? You like your serifs on your fonts. All right, so we, of course, will leave it there. We're going to come back tomorrow. We are going to get into it again. And we'd love to have you come over and join us. Now, before we wrap it up on the day, we want to say thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths who help keep the fort down and keep things nice and orderly around here. K-Bean, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek all modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly around here. But my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. It's a beautiful Monday. I hope your week is off to an incredible start. We're coming back tomorrow. Probably won't have any Diddy updates, but we'll see what the day has in store for us. It's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to get into it. But in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.